Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and welcome to the summary for the day of 485 for the 23rd plus 2 of June 2023, because we're going to have a lot of information coming out from today because all hell has broke loose in Russia because the Wagner private military contractors has decided to do a mutiny. They decided to do a military coup against the Russian Defense Ministry. And not just that, Putin have criticized the division, and they say that this is a betrayal and this is a he don't approve of it. So what happened is that Prigozhin basically criticized Putin as well, saying that he made a mistake. So he's going to pull down Putin as well, by the look of it. So let's see how these things gonna turn out. So the special military, so this is the summary for the special military operation in Ukraine that has turned super extra special, very special now, like a super special military operation now, and not just in Ukraine, now in Russia as well. So and all the Ukraine war plus Russia civil war. So I will start off with the latest information regarding the Wagner mutiny first, because I think this is what I think you guys will be most interested in. Of course, the Ukraine war is still ongoing within Ukraine. But we will cover the pressing one first. For those that are really curious what the hell has happened. So the Wagner private military contractor, let me zoom in, has decided to launch a military coup. So according to Prigozhin, they decided, the council of the PMC commanders has decided to figure out why lawlessness is happening within Russia. So they demanded that the law enforcement agencies do not obstruct them, and then it's time to end the outrage. And the stated goal is to deal with Shoigu or Shoigu. So this is like a coup because of Shoigu. And according to Prigozhin, has fled from Rostov, and then Prigozhin said that he have 25,000 troops behind him, and he's calling on others to join him. And he said that after restoring order, depending on what it means by order, he promised to return to the front. Yeah. So then the Russian MOD appeals. So this actually, no, when it first started, a lot of people is very confused. There are people who think that it's a deep fake, Telegram getting hacked, it's not him, or it's just another trick. But I think this has turned out to be very serious, because the Russian Defense Ministry in their official channel has published that they appeal to the fighter of the Wagner PMC, saying that they have been tricked into a criminal gamble and a participation in an armed insurgency. And he said that they want to allow these fighters to return to base, and they will be provided with assistance, and so tell them to get in touch with the Russian Defense Ministry, and they guarantee everyone's safety. So Putin then finally came out with an address, because this thing is becoming so serious that the freaking president have to come out and talk. And he addressed on the Wagner mutiny, saying a pretty long speech. Basically, he condemns the Wagner private military contractors for trying to betray the country, and this is a rebellion, and this is going to push the country into anarchy, and it's a threat to their statehood. And then they say that these people who betrayed will be punished, and whoever who organized the military rebellion and took up arms against Russia is betraying Russia, and he will do the decisive actions to stop these so-called criminal acts. So basically, Putin have basically doubled down on whatever the government's position is, and Prigozhin is really unhappy about it. So Prigozhin did insist. He was at Rostov, so his forces actually took over Rostov. Later I will show you. And he wanted to talk directly with the chief of general staff and the defense minister, which is impossible. It's not possible. Nobody will just walk into the lion's den. And then when Prigozhin heard of Putin's statement, he was very disappointed. He said that the president is deeply mistaken, and he said that no one is going to surrender to the request of the president, the FSB, or anyone. So they say that the fate of the motherland is now at stake, and then he will not tolerate betrayal. So he talked about how the PMC is being abandoned in Africa, then left with not enough ammunition in Ukraine, and then somehow they have enough ammunition to do a military coup. So let's see how this goes. So in terms of what has happened so far, I have indicated, as you can see, that the maroon color is now representing the Wagner private military contractors. And so the first thing that had happened actually was Rostov. At Rostov-on-Don, the private military contractors actually entered Rostov, and they actually went into one directly to this spot over here, and they have captured. They secured this junction over here, and then they actually captured the southern military district's HQ. So, and that's where Prigozhin is located tentatively, and so far this information is pretty widespread because the videos of them being there is viral. This is reported by DPA UA and RIBA as well. The state security, according to military chronicles, including the FSB and police forces and whatever, have talked directly with the private military contractors, fighters, the Wagner fighters, to tell them to not make irreparable mistakes, so that not to make any military actions or carry out any criminal acts. So there's no fighting in Rostov just yet. They're trying to convince these people to not follow through. This is also happening with civilians. Some civilians are also very critical of this. People, a lot of crowd is actually gathering around where the Wagner forces is. Tentatively, it looks like the entire Rostov-on-Don city is under Wagner control, but of course, given the numbers that the Wagner forces have, they don't really have full entire control. But tentatively, the Russian military has no intention of fighting them in this city here, and if I'm not mistaken, all military operations, the planning and everything, execution conducted within Rostov-on-Don regarding to the special military operations continue as per usual. So there is no takeover in that sense, but they were just around. They were just staying around. Prigozhin was met by I think the deputy chief of staff, as well as another general, I forgot his name. So at Rostov-on-Don. So this is the calmer part. And then however, over in the northern part, in the Voronezh and region, all the way towards Moscow, as you can see, Moscow is over here. So there's this path all the way up to Moscow. This is not so peaceful. So the Wagner private military contractors, apparently their real positions were in the Luhansk region, and they actually traveled past this checkpoint, and this custom checkpoint, Russian forces did not stop them. There's 180 Russian servicemen and security officers manning the border checkpoint, and they did not interfere with the Wagner forces. They laid down their arms, and one of the Wagner channels actually took photo of them and posted this. So this location is called the Avdiivka custom border crossing. The problem with this, the thing is, these forces actually did the right thing. These 180 Russian servicemen, they are unlikely to be armed and have the fighting capability to actually stop the Wagner forces. They will just be rolled over, because the Wagner forces have tanks and armored vehicles and whatnot. So this is not actually a fighting area. So the forces that is located here are unlikely to be able to handle the Wagner forces. So that's actually the wise thing to do, to let them go. I need the Red Bull because I'm actually very sleepy. So however, the what happens is that the Wagner forces then actually approach all the way to the M4 highway. So if you can see this entire highway here, this is the M4 highway, and it leads all the way through Voronezh, and it will continue on all the way up to Moscow, if I'm not wrong. M4, right? Yeah, no, M2. So M4 actually ends around at Voronezh, and then they actually transit up M4 all the way up to M4, around this area, and then the highway actually changed name to E. Oh, it's still the M4. Yeah, it's still the M4 actually. Yeah, it's this road. So the entire of the M4 road is actually now closed. The E115 and so-called and also M4 highway has closed all the way from this location, Barabanovo, all the way from this area here, all the way south of Voronezh has been entirely closed. This can be found on Google Maps. And similarly, there is also a roadblock over at Sepokov. And this road here, along the river here, this area here, the road is entirely closed around this area here. The rest of the highway continues to be usable, but this bridge here has been secured. There is Russian forces deployed over at Sepokov bridge over the Oka River, and this is actually reported by Zia Arkiv. And the highway blockage is actually can be seen on Google Maps. And the Russian forces, after crossing the border, continued to move on this highway, and then there is reports of helicopters getting shot down. Three helicopters, 2 Mi-8s and 1 Mi-35 have been shot down reportedly in the morning, and it's unknown why there was this shot downs. Accordingly, there was a Mi-35 that reportedly was attacking the Wagner forces, and the Wagner forces returned fire, shooting down the helicopter. The crew is allegedly alive at the hospital, and the Wagner convoy continues. There was then came out reports coming from Ryba and other pro-Russian sources, and also by Cyan, Florida, reporting that the Russian Air Force attacked the M4 highway, and some seem to not hit. It looks like warning shots and whatnot. The Wagner convoy have air defense vehicles, and these air defense vehicles protects the convoy, like how a proper military convoy is. So as a result, maybe this is related to the helicopters, which is why they got shot down. And so and then there is also footages of some vehicles that was destroyed and burned along the highway, and it's suspected that these are actually victims of the helicopter strikes or the air strikes. Then we have continued spotting of the Wagner forces on the way to Voronezh, which is actually this big city over here, and then we have information of the Wagner forces arriving at Potolinovka. So at Potolinovka, the convoy has been filmed to be here, and then later Ryba, the pro-Russian source, reported that the Wagner forces have entered Potolinovka, and they actually are preparing to occupy the airbase. There's an airbase over here, and this basically also signifies that they have captured this town, this town over here. Including Rostov, they have actually captured 2 different settlements. However, like I said, this is just a very arbitrary, because they don't really have enough forces to actually do something like this. But the airbase is important because Wagner forces do actually have air assets, and they might want to use all these air bases as stepping stones for the helicopters or planes to hop around. And then moving further up north, as we move up all the way, the M4 highway, fighting was then reported at Rogoshevka. So according to Z Archive, there's reports of fighting between the Wagner forces and the forces from the military, and local residents allegedly was leaving the village due to the fighting over at Rogoshevka. And Rogoshevka is actually southeast of Voronezh. And then we have also spotting of the Wagner forces passing Voronezh. There is a BBC report, I think, or CNN, I think it's BBC, reporting that the Wagner forces have captured all military positions within Voronezh. I'm not too sure if they even want to stay here. I kind of think that they're just passing through. So a lot of misinformation out there. So I want you guys to be careful as well as you are researching, trying to find out what is happening over in Russia due to this military this mutiny. Do note that a lot. I'm not joking. It's like super a lot of misinformation. And there is also this footage of a plane getting shot down, a AN-26 transport plane that was like spinning down. That is actually a fake video. That video is actually an old video from last year. It's nothing to do with this one. So that is actually clarified by pro-Russian sources, including Rybar. And so the convoy continues northward, and then it was spotted along the M4 highway in the Lipetsk region. So this is Lipetsk city. So in this region, the M4 highway, there is footages of tanks on the flatbed carriers driving along the highway. So the Wagner forces still have a lot of tanks that is they are bringing along all the way towards Moscow. So far, this is as far as we as I know so far, as per this recording. This is the latest information as per this recording, with the Wagner forces arriving here over at the Lipetsk region along the M4. However, this entire M4 has been closed to traffic. This is actually officially closed, so you cannot actually use this road. As you can see on the Google Maps, you will not be able to use the road. And so the Russian forces actually closed off here and here. So at Sokolov and as well as at Barabanovo. So these are two spots that the Russian forces has closed. The Russian forces have been deployed over here, and probably most likely there's also here. There is a massive traffic jam because of all this crazy thing that's happening. Very reminiscence to the first 2 days of war in the Ukraine, when the Russians suddenly invaded Ukraine. There is unknown forces positioned along the road near Domodedovo. Domodedovo is here. So along the road here, and this, given that the fact that the roadblocks are already set up south of Moscow. So we are not this Moscow, south of Moscow. We can imagine that this is most probably Russian forces. And so far within Moscow itself, there is strengthening of security. Archive and Rybar all reported that there is additional security measures being implemented, and there is a counter-terrorist operation regime that is also being introduced, and all the southern roads that the private military contractors could use are currently blocked. But of course, the Wagner being Wagner, I'm quite sure that they are going to be very resourceful. They probably will just go in another way, and so we shall see how the Russians are going to handle this. And this also kind of very interestingly justify what I always say, the Ukrainians should attack directly into Russia, because once you break through the first few lines of Russian defenses, yeah, it's just you can just drive all the way to Moscow, just like what's happening right now. So yeah, the Wagner forces now basically in essence is working for the Ukrainian forces, because there is whatever they are doing whatever the reasons they are going to give, just is not good enough. It just makes no sense, especially when your country is right in the middle of the war. I think this is too much ego that is being involved. Anyway, I will probably do a separate video or a separate session talking more directly about this mutiny by the Wagner forces as we continue the SITREP. So this is the situation report of 2 days action. This all happening today on the 24th of June. This is still a developing situation, but I cannot leave it out because things are developing really quickly. As you can see, the amount of things that had happened in that half day is just a lot. So within the theater of war within Ukraine, there's a Russian Ka-52 shot down over Ukraine on the 23rd of June, and also, you know, if you don't press the like button and subscribe, if you're unsubscribed, I tell you, I also shoot down your helicopter. But if you have a helicopter, that means you're also very rich. So I won't shoot you down. You join my Patreon, be my patron, okay? and over at the southern front, there's no actions happening over at the southern front. Over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, at the Zaporizhzhia Front, the entire this lake is no longer here. It's just a small little river now. A small little river called the Dnipro River. So yeah, and then the grounds are drying up. So we could probably see a Ukrainian offensive. As I mentioned quite a few times already, don't discount it. It is becoming more and more likely as the ground gets harder and harder. And over at the Kayamsky sector, there is Russian attack against Ukrainian forces at Pyatikaki. So this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry, and they say that they discovered they discovered some Ukrainian scouts around Pyatikaki region. Pyatikaki generally is still pretty much like a gray zone kind of thing. Nobody dares to stay there. It's like a ghost town, but no. Yeah, so they're still fighting over there. And over at the Orikhiv sector, we have fighting reported north of Robotine. This is reported by Deep State UA as well as by Ryba, the pro-Russian source. And so far, they captured the Ukrainian forces managed to capture a stronghold north of Robotine, and but they are getting shelled by the Russian artillery after the capture. It took 10 men, the Ukrainians took 10 losses north of Robotine to capture the stronghold. It's unknown where it is. But it's still moved by the Ukrainian forces. Reinforcement has been reported at Orikhiv as well as at Malo-Tamashka. This is reported by Ryba, the pro-Russian source, saying that these are assault groups. So the Ukrainian forces is now gathering up for a new offensive force so that they can do another push south towards Robotine, taking advantage of the chaos that's currently reigning within the military ranks of the Russian forces. Over at the Kuyapole sector, there is also probing attacks at Dorozyanka as well as at Mafopil. Information is coming from the Russian Defense Ministry. The first one was, I think, yeah, it's both are Russian Defense Ministry. So so far these are just probings and scouts. This is not an offensive over at Kuyapole. Moving into the Velika Novosilka sector, that fighting continues along the Levatne-Novodarivka line. This is reported by Deep State UA. Reinforcement has been reported at Levatne, according to Ryba, and there is also reinforcement reported all across the sector here at Velika Novosilka, coming from Zaporizhzhia, and also at Vremivka as well as Torozheve. So this also seems to suggest that the Ukrainians are preparing for another renewed major offensive to attack and not do what they failed to do the previous time. And there is a concentration of Ukrainian forces west and southwest of Makarivka. So the Ukrainian forces are managing to build up a force around here. Probably they're going to push for Staromayovsky, or they actually take the high ground, which is also pretty wise to do if they choose to do that. And over at the Donetsk Front, still within the Velika Novosilka sector, there is fighting reported near the Oktyabrsk State Farm. I'm still not too sure where this place is. I'm still thinking this Kermanchak. And so this just some scouts getting discovered, and some firefight happens. The Ukrainians did attack Novodonetsk. This is part of this is reported through a story of heroism the Russian Defense Ministry posted to show off Mr. Lieutenant Mikhail Yakhomov for doing some heroics. And so the heroics is not important. So what's important is that it actually reports that the Ukrainians actually tried to attack Novodonetsk. And that's all from the Novodonetsk region. Nothing happens over at the Voleda region. Over at the Marinka sector, we have fighting reported near Novomikhailivka. So the Russian forces are probably still pushing in the north of Novomikhailivka, which is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Over at Marinka, there is still a mix of information. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry say the Russians are attacking. The Russians say the Ukrainians are attacking. So both sides are attacking each other. Very gay. And okay, then that's all from the Donetsk Front. Moving into the Avdiivka Front. At the Avdiivka Front, the Ukrainian offensive seems to slow down quite a bit. There is only fighting reported at Pervomaisk, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Ukrainian DPA UA said that the Russians are the one trying to attack. And then there is fighting reported at Zivane, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So they say that the Russians are attacking Zivane, and the DPA UA say that the Russians are attacking Pervomaisk. Ukrainian Defense Ministry also reported fighting at Avdiivka. Most probably is from the east. However, not this is just my speculation, because this is where the fighting was previously coming from. And in the north, we have the Ukrainians attacking near Bytaichi, probably towards Petrovskoye on the western part of Krasnohorivka. So this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. So the Ukrainians are still attacking in this fashion, trying to push back the pincer. But by the way how they report, it does seems like the scale of it seems to be slowing down. Maybe the Ukrainians are watching, have sensed all these things that's going to happen in Russia, so now they are actually doing regrouping, and maybe to see how things develop, and maybe they can do another massive offensive with the Russians' morale super low. Just want to note, high morale doesn't mean you become bulletproof. Doesn't mean that artillery shell cannot kill you. It doesn't mean that you are impervious to mines. If you are high morale, you walk confidently on the minefield, you still die. So no, morale doesn't mean a lot, to be honest. And over at the Bakhmut Front, the fighting continues over at Klishchievka. Fightings continue to be reported on the northwest and western part of Klishchievka. So this continues to be reported by Deep State UA, and there's nothing else happening over at the Bakhmut Front, except that there is some rumors, as we have previously reported, there is a gathering of forces on the Ukrainian side in the Bakhmut Front as they are preparing for a major offensive over at this sector. And this has been reported as well regarding in relations to the uprising over by the Wagner forces. So I'm not sure how whether this is something that can be taken advantage of, because if you are positioned at the front line, you're positioned at the front line. It doesn't really change anything whatever happening in the rear, unless you don't get your ammo, you don't get your food. So anyway, moving into the Siversk Front. At the Siversk Front, there's fighting reported at Versailles, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, suggesting that the Russians are attacking Versailles. And there's also fighting reported at Bilohorivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry and Ryba. Ryba actually did come up with more information. They said that the Russian forces have completed their capture of the water utility over here, the filter station. However, the Ukrainian 81st Air Mobile Brigade, supported by mercenaries, are digging in the chalk quarry, which is here. So I have colored the two industrial icons over here. So the Russians actually have controlled this finally, after attacking it for some time, and the Ukrainians are holding their grounds in the chalk quarry, and probably there's a certain high ground over here. So the fighting will continue at Bilohorivka. And moving into the Kreminna Front. At the Kreminna Front, we are also receiving information also from pro-Russian sources talking a lot about reinforcement. So reinforcement is reported at Horodok, according to Ryba, also at Yampil. So this is the 1st Battalion of the 42nd Mechanized Brigade that's being deployed into this area here. So most likely, the one at Horodok is just a rear HQ, and then they then move into the forward operating base at Yampil. Then they can actually go into the offensive should they be caught to do so. And within the Kreminna Serebransky forestry region, the Russians are continuing their attack within the forest. Deep State UA and Ryba both reported that the Russians continue their offensive, with Ryba saying that these are Russian airborne troops continuing to clear Ukrainian positions within the forest. And there is also fighting reported south of Dibrova. This is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So this could actually be referring to the same reports, as the Serebransky forestry is actually quite huge. There is fighting reported at Dibrova. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they actually discovered the Ukrainian scouts or reconnaissance forces near Dibrova. And moving up north, also at Yampolivka, this is actually part of the same report. And that's all from the Kreminna Front. Moving on to Svatove, we have nothing over at the Svatove Front. And moving into the Kupyansk Front, at the Kupyansk Front, we have Ukrainians scouting or probing Timkovka, as well as at Sinkivka. The one at Sinkivka, sorry, this actually is the wrong color. So Sinkivka is not a probing. Sinkivka is actually a Russian attack. This is part of the previous information where the Russians actually managed to capture most of the forest, and then they are attacking directly from the forest towards Sinkivka. So there is no information about the fighting towards Petropolivka, as per reported by Remelin 21. And Remelin 21 is also very busy because his sources are direct sources are Wagner, and now Wagner just went nuts. So he also trying to figure out what the hell is happening, and he's also the entire pro-Russian scene is just very busy with this Wagner uprising. So there is not a lot of pro-Russian sources talking about the fighting within Ukraine itself. We have the minimal, mainly before all the hell break loose. So also, emotional damage for the Russians. I think this is looking really positive for the Ukrainians. But I just want to add, a Russian state collapse, a fracturing, or fragmentation of Russia is going to be really bad for everyone. I just want to say that it's going to be bad for geopolitics. It's going to be bad for all sort of things that you cannot imagine. Anyway, thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, or I shoot down your helicopter, and I'll see you in the next update.